In this lesson, we will be creating a PQFP 100, and we will be using the package symbol wizard. So open up your Allegro editor and go File, New, and we don't want to overwrite that. And we'll go to the package symbol wizard. Now the name of this is going to be PQFP 100. So just type that in and say OK. So the package symbol wizard pops up, and we want to click on PLCC QFP. And then we go to Next. And we want the default cadence applied template, say Load Template. And then we go to Next. And the units we want is mils, and the accuracy, let's make it 1 and 1 mils, and reference designator U is fine. And we go to Next. Now the vertical pin count will be 25, and also the horizontal pin count will be 25, and that gives us a total number of pins of 100. And the location of pin 1 needs to be the top left corner, so click that. Now we see that our pitch is a 0.50 millimeters. Now everything on this spec sheet is in millimeters, so we have to do some conversions. So if we take the 0.50 millimeters and we multiply it by 39.37, we get 19.685 mils. Now this is very important, and it has to be this accurate. So since we only have one place, decimal point of 1, we have to go back, and we want to make this 3. Just like that. Then we go Next. Everything else is fine. Now we put in our 19.685 mils. Just like that. And these decimal places are very important because, remember, we have 25 pins that we have to put this 19.685, and if you don't go the extra decimals, you'll be off at the end. And then just say Next. So now we have to fill in the E and the D. And if we go to our spec, we see that since it is square, it'll be 14.40. It's the largest number. Now, since we have to convert it, if we go 14.40 millimeters times 39.37, you get 567 mils. So E is 567. And 567. Just like that. Now E1 and E2, notice that it is the middle of the pad, not the tip to tip. So we have to do a little math on this one. Now on tip to tip, we use the average. So that would be 16 millimeters. And if we go to our conversion page, 16 times 39.37 is 630 mils. And we then have to take 15 mils off each side, which gives us a total of 30. So the number we want to put in is 600. And the reason we do that, if we put the 630, it would the middle of the pad would be right here. We want to bring the pad in a little bit so the heel gets as much solder as the tip. Okay, so that being done, we say Next. So if we look at the pin, we see that the width of the pin is 0.10 mils and 0.30 mils. We always use the higher number, so we'll use 0.30 mils. And the length of the pin is a 0.7. Again, we always use the larger number. So 0.30 wide is 11.811 mils, and we're going to be using 12. And the 0.7 length of the pin is 27.599. We'll be using 30 as this number. But we also have to add 15 mils on each side of it. So we'll add 30 to it, and the pin that we'll be using is an SMD 60 by 12. So in the default pad stack to use for the cymbal pins, we click on the radial button and we look for SMD 12 asterisk, and 2 pins come up, and here we go. We have a SMD 12 by 60, which is fine. Say OK. And we can use that for both of them. And then next. So here's our compiled cymbal. At this time, why don't we move some of these numbers off the pins. So if we measure the span of the pin to pin this way, let's go to measure. Make sure that we have everything off but pins. And we go pin to pin. And that is 600, which is correct. The next thing we want to check is the span from pin 1 to pin 25. The typical is 12. So if we go to our conversion sheet, we see 12 times 39.37 is 472.44. So we check this one to this one, and it is in fact 472.44. So we did our job right. The next thing we want to check is the body size. So we get into measure again, and we want to make sure we turn everything off but some lines here. And if we click here, it's a line, and this one. And we see that it is 567 mils. And if we look at our conversion table, we see that the width and length was 1440, which is in fact 567 mils. So all the measurements on our component are correct. Another thing that we should do is put a little dot here, a little circle here, so it will denote pin 1. To do that, just say add circle, and we go to package geometry, wherever that is, package geometry, assembly top, and we'll put it right here, right about there, and we can move it around. And we also want to put it on silkscreen top. And we want to make sure that the silkscreen nomenclature goes on the outside of the component, and the assembly nomenclature goes on the inside of the component. Another thing I should mention is that the wizard puts the reference designator for the silkscreen on the outside and the reference designator for the assembly drawing on the inside. And that concludes our lesson on creating a quad flat pack in the wizard program.